Hi everyone, Michael Sandler here, best-selling author and your host on Inspire Nation. Check out our website where we'll be posting podcasts, tips, videos, blogs, and more at inspirenationshow.com. Today we have a very smooth-sounding guest. His name is Scott Smith. He's the founder and chief motivating officer of motivationtomove.com, the #1 daily self-help show on iTunes, and in his words, has been broadcasting for perhaps a million years.
I'm sorry, I came in too soon.
Well, this is a fun show. We're just going to have fun. He got into it straight out of high school as a radio personality and spent more than 25 years as a disc jockey, on-camera spokesperson, actor, voiceover talent, and doing just about anything else you could do to get paid for in that industry. You've probably heard him on the Golf Channel, ESPN, CNN, Fox, and most other networks, or you might have heard him at Universal Studios in Orlando or on board Disney cruise ships. He's also a former radio and television production company in Orlando and went on to produce thousands of projects, large and small, for clients like Children's Miracle Network, Weight Watchers, NASA, as well as serving as a freelance producer for ABC and Fox television networks. Scott has also struggled with a weight problem nearly his entire life, something we'll dive into in this episode. Actually, what I'm most excited to talk with him about is his own path in life and helping others to find theirs, whether that's getting healthy and moving again, finding career direction, or stepping outside their comfort zone to reach for their dreams. Scott's life hasn't been without hardship. In 2006, he lost Cheryl, the love of his life and mother of his 2 grown kids, Carolyn and Austin. Yet in 2008, he miraculously discovered a new love, Joy, and they've been married almost ever since. Welcome to the show, Scott. Are you ready to shine?
I'm yes. After that, you better believe I'm ready to shine. I feel shiny right now, as my dad used to call it. I feel like Shinola, whatever the heck that was. I don't know. I've never been called smooth, by the way. That's awesome, baby. I love that one.
Well, I'm going to give a big mighty woohoo.
There you go. I'll take that one.
So, well, jumping into it, because you definitely have the voice for the industry. You have the voice for, well, we've heard your voice a lot. We may not even know that we've heard your voice a lot, but how did you get into broadcasting? It's
what I wanted to do. I mean, as a teenager, I used to listen to the radio. Mm-hmm. AM, FM, the whole deal, and was kind of infatuated by it. And then I would go stalk the disc jockeys around town as they were doing stuff. Yeah. And it just became what I did. I was a high school guy that did all the announcements and was on the stage and did all that stuff. And I remember just walking into a radio station one day, scared the heck out of them because I said I wanted to see their public file. Public file is something that the FCC makes local radio stations keep. And I thought, well, as a kid, hey, if I walk in and see the public file, I'll learn a lot about radio. Well, what I didn't understand was they really don't like to keep that thing up to date, and they were scared to death I was from the government or something. So we found a snot-nosed 16-year-old, and they brought me in and got to know him a little bit. I ultimately went to work for that station about a year or two later, but that was it. I just kind of infatuated by it, and it just became what I was dead set to do, and I went out after it. That's it.
What was it like on your first show?
Oh, my God. What was your first podcast like? I actually, if you really want to know it, let's say, so I went to school, but I was in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, and a little itty-bitty town, I think it's south of Raleigh. I don't remember exactly. Southwest, maybe. But I was in there, and I stayed the night at Miss Tilly's boarding house, and I went to this radio station. I pulled in the driveway. There was a big bass boat in the front yard. Now, when I say bass boat, it was a wooden boat that somebody made.
Okay.
And that was their contest for the summer. And I thought, oh, my God. Because it said, win this boat. I said, what have I come to? I walked in the station. He said, let me give you a couple of rules. Talk about the boat we're going to give away this summer. That's a great deal here. Mm-hmm. And this weekend you're going to the Bluegrass Festival. And when the truckers come by, open the microphone and say, hey, trucker. And because the road was like 50 feet away. I said, oh, really? So I get on the air, and the very first thing I did was say, hey, trucker, because I heard a truck blow his horn. Yeah. And then I asked for requests. And I'll never forget asking for a request. And everybody called in, and they knew I was a new guy. They all called in and started asking for them. But the joke was on me. Because it was a country music station, I had no idea about country music. So I was just pulling my hair out trying to find the songs, and I was sweating the whole night long. But that was my first day. I got through it. I survived, man.
I think there's a beautiful lesson in there for everybody stepping outside their comfort zone, even if it's something going after their passion.
Oh yeah, I live outside my comfort zone. Slightly, not a whole lot, just slightly.
What does that mean?
It means. Well, actually, I think it means growth. Okay. I think you can't grow if you're sitting still. You can't. You can be comfortable. You can be content. But you've got to crack open a different book. You've got to make another phone call. You've got to bang on another door. You've got to be growing. So to me, as long as I'm moving in a forward direction, and sometimes a backward direction, by the way, sometimes I learn the biggest lessons going backwards. So to do anything, I feel like I've got to be pushing myself just a little bit. I just define that as slightly out of my comfort zone. Let me go a little deeper. I think you only succeed in your comfort zone. That's confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's confusing because for me, I relate comfort zone with not necessarily a plateau, but when I hear myself say, I am comfortable, to me, that's a raising of a red flag.
Well, in what way? I mean, I don't see why it would.
Either I'm not growing or there's something more to be doing. That if I get... Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think happiness is being content is what I think, and I think it's okay to be content. I mean, that's in the moment. If you're sitting there and life feels pretty good, I mean, they say happiness is in the moment. Really, which moment is that? Which millisecond did I just miss? I was happy and now it's gone. You know, so I think it's content. So let's separate being content and being comfortable. You can be uncomfortable and content at the same time.
Agreed. Completely.
Sometimes that's exactly where I love to be. When I'm flying airplanes and stupid, crazy stuff like that, I'm really uncomfortable. I really am. And yet I'm content. Man, look at me go. I'm a happy camper. So yeah, that's what I think it means. I think it means just, let me describe what I mean by being in your comfort zone. I am so in my comfort zone right now. This is where I live. I surpassed the 10,000 hour rule a long time ago. This is what I do. Completely in my comfort zone. Am I a little bit out of my comfort zone with you asking a question? I have no idea what's coming because you didn't give me any lead. Nothing. You just. So am I a little bit out? Yeah. But my confidence is 1,000% that no matter what you throw at me, I'm going to be fine.
So let's throw a good one at you then.
Good luck with that. Come on.
All right. Well, what have been when you go to your page, Motivation to Move? It's beautiful, and it gives all of these different shows give great advice for helping to get somebody going. And you could get this understanding from looking at this or listening to you that it's been all smooth sailing. And I know that can't have been the case because that's kind of what made you who you are. So what are some of the big challenges you've faced along the way?
Okay. Which one, right? You know what? It's kind of funny you would say that because I have been accused of that recently. I have been accused of everything's just good for you. And I was actually at an event recently. They said, Scott, your life is perfect and you're just afraid you're going to lose it. I said, I never thought about it like that. When I started this business, this started as a guy who I basically have this in me that I stumble into trouble.
Yep.
I mess things up. And I go, didn't see that coming. Okay, what am I going to do? And that's pretty much what I do about it. And then I go out and I fix it. And I just keep doing that day by day. And when I first started this business, when I started podcasting, because with the speaking and the writing and all the stuff I do these days, it really still comes down to the podcast. But when I first started, it was just a podcast. I was a fat guy who had lost some weight and decided that I was going to go share about that. And I started talking about it. And so I just kept going forward. And the early success I had was built 100% entirely on the congruency of my story and the fact that I was kind of a mess. I was working through it. And I just shared that. And honestly, what's happened now, and this is a real big, I don't know if it's a big issue. I think it's the next level for me.
Yes.
I've gotten pretty good at what I do, and I've been accused of exactly what you just said. And it's ringing with me a little bit because now I want to go, okay, well, so what am I missing? Or is there a better way to communicate this? Or how do I do this? And I'm working on it right now. It's a little weird for me. I was on stage recently. I came off stage and they said, perfect, nothing we could say to improve it at all. And it took 2 months after that, and I got people saying, half the group hated you because you were so good at it. I thought, wait a second, I thought I was supposed to be good. Isn't that why I worked 100 hours to do it? I rehearsed an hour-and-a-half presentation 100 times. Yeah. It's 150 hours, start to finish, to get it that way.
It's weird. This world, I went in for a haircut this past week, and I guess I botched the description. I'm like, well, do this, don't do that. And I'm like, make the transition like this. You know how you did it last time? And she goes, oh, yeah, you mean kind of a rough transition. I'm like, well, whatever you did last time. And then I looked at it afterwards, and I'm like, what in the world? And what it was is that people are telling her that they don't want a good haircut anymore. That they're literally telling her that they want it rough around the edges.
Why?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's like the new YouTube thing where people like it to be like a shaky thing. People don't want it to look too pro.
I don't know. There's a strange time going on right now. But let me just cut right out of this really fast.
Yes.
Because here's the thing: people who are good at what they do have massive success.
Yes.
And a lot of people can't relate to that. But I will tell you that I hope to relate to everybody, and I respond to almost every email I get, unless I forget to. But there are other people who are at a different place in life who look at what I do and relate to me exactly. And somebody who maybe is just stepping in. So if I get a 23, 24-year-old, early millennial that steps into my world,
yes,
there's no way they can relate to me. It ain't going to happen. And I know that. So I kind of take on kind of a different approach. I've just gotten to a level now where I just kind of, it's just different for me. And it's hard. There's no doubt. And that's part of the whole Motivation to Move Daily Boost thing that I do. It's part of discovering that along the way. In other words, raising the level of awareness that we have, not only for ourselves, but the impact that we're having on the world. And is that impact, by the way, my fault or is it their fault? And I really will apply blame. And that's me being politically incorrect. If you're a ninny, you're a ninny. I can't help you with that. You're only eight or 9 years maybe away from not being a ninny, but you've got to read another book. So is it my fault to come back and say, hey, well, anyway, you get what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah.
So it's a weird place of just grow and trying to be the best person you can be. And that's challenging because as soon as you get successful and try to be the best person you can be, somebody is going to show up, knock on your door and say who you think you are. It's going to happen.
Which is weird. And we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but it is a strange quirk of our society.
It's always happened. It has never been anything but that, ever. And it happens. It's a level of achievement. Listen, if you want to achieve,
yes,
okay, I'm in the podcast world.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a podcaster. I don't. I don't go to podcast conventions. I don't have a lot of podcaster friends. Main difference between me and other podcasters, I make a lot of money and build a whole business off of it. And they look at me like, well, they literally will say you're in a different league. No, I'm not. I'm in my bedroom recording right now. I'm at a home office. I'm just like you. I'm barefoot in shorts, hanging out with a cat next to. I'm doing exactly what they do. I just show up every single day and craft my skill, but I don't worry about it. So it's one of these things where, and like I said, I don't consider myself that. But do you know that a lot of these folks out there? You called me your podcaster. You contacted me. Did I do anything but open up to you?
Not at all. No,
absolutely
beautiful.
Do you know I get virtually no requests because they will. And I'll ask, if I get somebody sometimes at an event, I'll say, so why haven't you contacted? I could help you, man. I got a bunch of listeners. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, I thought you're too busy and I couldn't get to you. I'm like, what? How did I put that off? So it is an odd thing. Something I'm having to work on right now. Then, I will.
So I think you hit three key topics at once, and I'm not sure if I can even keep them all straight in my head where you just came from. And one of them is be consistent, is show up.
Oh, you found that in there? Oh my gosh! All right, so you asked me. So you're kind of getting me just to go here, and that was just fine. I love this kind of thing because I have to tell all kinds of crazy stories. All my talking points I tell all the time.
Yep.
Consistency, number one rule. Period. Now, here's the thing. If you're really bad at what you do and you show up consistently, that's not always a good thing. Right? You should just stay home. But, if you pay attention to the growth, if you're flexible, if you look at the impact you're having and the results you're getting and you start making changes, consistently will solve it for you. I think there are very few things in life that can't be made better without being consistent. And if you show up at the gym 5 days a week, what happens? You get in better shape, right?
Typically, yes. If you're doing what you said was number two, segueing, which is hone your skills.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to do that.
So, because if you show up at the gym and you don't give a hoot about it, so to speak, and you just show up, you're not doing the job.
Yeah. And you hone your skills. And by the way, I think hone your skills, not somebody else's. And in this day and age, it's really easy for people to kind of look outside their little life into the world of others because we have the internet and all this stuff. People listen, they pay attention. And, they get programmed. They get infused with ideas that they think are theirs, and they're not. So you have to get clear on who you are and hone those skills and work. I know who I am. Listen, man, some people call me cheesy. Nobody's ever called me smooth, like I said. And a lot of times, I've had people call me cheesy because I have too good a voice. I don't think I have a great voice, but, it's better than a lot. At the same time, you hone that skill, that craft every single day, and it just is who you are. You own it and you run with it, and then if you do it long enough consistently, you will find people who go, "Hey, I dig you, man," and they pay attention to you.
And that's where the fun's at.
I think so. But depending if you like to be stalked or not.
So let's dive back into your early days. So you did struggle with weight loss issues. I think if I remember in your bio, ever since you discovered cinnamon toast.
Yeah, you read that? Oh my God! Sorry, I just made noise with your microphone here.
So no, that's quite all right. And then there was the free pizzas that showed up for your shows, and our in-laws, my in-laws brought us pizza before the show. So I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. Listen. I was a guy that at one time in high school I weighed about 160 pounds, maybe a little less.
Mm-hmm.
I think I passed through it. Came up from birth and passed through 160 and just kept going. Yeah. A lot of folks that got married, had babies. And by the time I was one of my first radio jobs out in California, I remember the salesman came in. He said, "Hey man, we got this client. Don't get mad at me, but it's Nutrisystem. They'd like for you to go on a diet." And
oh wow.
I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "So what do I get?" So well, they pay you for it. And they'll give you free food. I'm in. Give it to me. And I went and talk about motivation because every week I had to report my weigh-in. Mm-hmm. So I lost weight, lost about 60 pounds. But my life, like a lot of folks, has been made up of never meeting a pizza or a beer or anything that I would say no to. Mm-hmm. And my wife, my late wife Cheryl, and we lived the same life. Sometimes heavy, sometimes very much in shape. But during the whole time, I was kickboxing. I was doing martial arts stuff. And there were times when you'd look at me and say I was the fittest guy on the planet. At other times, and I got to 248 pounds. And so it's a struggle on, back and forth. And I finally got to the point that I said enough. And I lost it. And I was about 40 years old. You know what it was? I went to the doctor one day. Mm-hmm. And the doctor looked at me and she said, "Well, you are over 40. So let me just give you some medication and, do the best you can with the weight." And I went, "What? What do you mean I'm over 40? I mean, I wasn't mad about even being over 40. I was mad that they would do that to me. How dare them?" And so I left. I literally left there. I had my stuff. I'd planned on going to the gym for like weeks. I had my stuff in the car. Yeah. I went right to the gym. And in 90 days, I lost 60 pounds. I took it off fast. And then I remember I went back for my follow-up and, not even follow-up. I went back like a year and a half later. They'd put my file in storage. And she didn't recognize me. Wow. And so as I got talking, I said, "Yeah, remember you told me I was basically a fat guy over 40, give up on it." And look at me now. So yeah, I lost the weight. And that's what led into, then podcasting showed up and I had kind of a following. I was into the motivational thing. I was coming out of broadcast work and really wanted to share my message. And I found podcasting that allowed me to share my message in a big way. And I just started doing that. And along the way, we've helped a lot of people lose a lot of weight. It's still a big part of what we do these days. But because I went on from losing the weight to getting very, very fit and then being a CrossFit athlete at 55 years old. And all that stuff basically, frankly, made me not relate to some of the people that are just, are obese and are not athletic. So it's been a little bit of a challenge for us in the past year or two as well. Because I know coming back from injury, at some point people relate to me. And then I come back from injury too far. Yeah. Well, this is frustrating. This is one of the things that, frankly, I think it screws up the world in a lot of ways, this kind of thinking. Because, yes, if you come back too far, you get in great shape. And I'm on my way back right now. I just finally got my injuries turned around. And if you come back too far, if you start getting too good at what you do, if you start having too much success, you start getting challenges. Because people are uncomfortable with that because you make them feel uncomfortable in their own skin. So what do? Well, we don't get that. Then we back off a little bit. Or we start saying things on our programs that maybe just make people happy. We become politicians. Mm-hmm. And this is marketing as well. Because now if you're in the business, you want to market, you just want to say things that people want to hear so they'll do business with you. So this is the problem. That's one of the things I liked about one of your recent shows, though. Is that you were saying you can't try to be friends with anybody and don't even try to do it. Yeah, I don't. And that flies in the face of what a lot of people either have been heard or told or read How to Win Friends and Influence People, that you want to try to get everybody to love you. Yeah, well, you can't. No. It's real simple. You got to take a stand. If you sit on the fence, you get splinters in your ass. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. So you get on one side or the other. Bottom line. And as soon as you step out and say anything to anybody that takes a little bit of a stand, somebody immediately goes, "What'd you say?" And they come at you. And you have to decide what that's going to be. And by the way, sometimes it could be I'm going to have a salad instead of a big burger. What? Well, man, come on, have some fun tonight. And they turn on you. Or tonight I don't feel like drinking. Tonight I just want to have some water. What? You a sissy? It happens in everything. And again, I think it's pulling people out of their comfort zone a little bit. One of the things that makes me really different about the motivational work that I do and the personal development work, I'm really different. You can tell in my languaging, I talk like a real guy. I do. There are guys out there who would never say what I'm
positive. Yeah,
oh,
I put that in quotes.
Well, I'm not all affirmation-y and positivity.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I knew that's what you meant. I've been here before. Yeah, but I do. I use those things. I think positivity is actually looking at what's real. Mm-hmm. It's grounding yourself in reality and going, okay, listen, when I started out, I remember one time, this is about going back about 14 years. Yep. I had an office in here, and it was late one night, and I was working. It was probably midnight or something like that. I had a particularly bad day, probably a bad couple of weeks. Business wasn't good, everything. And this was before I got in this business. And I was trying to break out. And I remember I stopped by and picked up a bottle of wine. And I had work to do, so I grabbed a bottle of wine. Why not? You get better work done when you're drinking. And so I had gone through that bottle. Yeah. And I remember walking in the bathroom there at my little office at probably 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and I looked into that mirror, and I saw this tired guy, overweight guy, and looking in the mirror, drunk guy. And I remember looking in the mirror and going, okay, ninny, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing here? You can't do this stuff. And I shook out of it and moved on. This happens. It happens to people.
So how do you help others? Because really, it's hard to get that horse to drink. What can you do to help others to shake out of that as well?
Nothing. You like that answer?
It's truthful.
It's truthful. I can't help anybody. And this if you ask me on my programs, I will always tell you, I do not try to help anybody. Mm-hmm. I do not have a magical power to help anybody. None. It's completely up to what's going on in you and your mind and how you associate things in the world. So what do? Well, I condition you. My programs, I make fun and upbeat and interesting and just a little bit titillating to the point that make you listen and come back. And if you come back, I expand your worldview because now you've heard a couple different things about me. You've heard opinions. You've learned a few things. Now you're not in a box anymore. Now you're in a little bit bigger box. And then you start making these connections inside your brain. And you start going, okay, well, based on what I now know, who knows where I learned it from? I don't expect credit from it. Yep. But now I start looking at the world differently. And I go, yeah, you know what? Maybe I will say no to that guy who's been bugging me. And it begins to change a little bit. So the change happens internally. All motivation is intrinsic. It all comes from within. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I can do to do this. All I can really do is guide you through a process. And there are many great processes out there. Mine is different than a lot of people's. But I can guide you through to the point you go, click. The trick is a click. One day you open up, you get it. Yep. And suddenly you fix yourself.
Which is beautiful.
And then something. As soon as you fix one thing, you go, oh, yeah, but okay, not next. Now what's wrong? So I think it's a practical look. It's not. It's not always a thing that sells. Although I tell you what, more and more when I go to events and I speak, the more I kind of go into this kind of talking, the more they love me because nobody else is doing it. You don't want to be mean. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. You never want to do that. I don't try to do that. But at the same time, you do want to be truthful, and that's refreshing to people.
That makes sense. And that is actually part of where we're going, at least social media in one way, which is people do want to hear the real you. It's much better than if you give them a sugar-coated, life is good, life is good, life is good. They're going, who is this plastic man?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's I a long time ago I used to say when I first kind of went over. So when Cheryl died, mm-hmm. I lost a bunch of weight, and then when she got sick, I gained weight because when somebody's in hospice, people bring you all kinds of food, mm-hmm. and I was going to eat it, so I gained weight again, and then when she died, then I thought, okay, well I want to meet another woman, I better lose some weight, and so I started shaping up, and I met a beautiful woman, and I thought I better get some muscle on me, make myself look hot, So I started building. I got some pictures I can show you. It's kind of scary. I want to get back to that. I look really good, but then I noticed I was having a challenge with my audience because I was heavily into the weight loss and more weight loss, less fitness at the time, mm-hmm. and they didn't relate to me anymore. They couldn't understand me doing all this kind of working out. And I remember the day I realized that. I said, you know what? I can never be as in shape as I want to be, yep. and keep this audience.
Ooh. Okay, that's rough. What does that mean then? Because you want to stay true to you, and you want to have your audience.
Doesn't work. They didn't get it. My wife, and if you listen to Joy at all, Joy's in amazing shape. 51 years old. She's a fitness competitor, does bikini and figure contests, and 125 pounds, 5 feet 8 inches tall. 17% body fat, which is pretty low for a woman her weight, and a beautiful woman. And people love her. Great personality, a great role model. I mean, you should look at her and you should say, my God, I want to be that. What she do? She goes to the gym 6 days a week, and she eats right every single day. That's all. And yet you'd be very much amazed the hate mail we get. People don't relate. They don't like her. They don't understand it. How could somebody be like that? And same thing with me. So how do you deal with that? Well, the way you deal with it is you simply understand at some point. Now, business-wise, I guess you make a choice. You either lie to people. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. Or you make a decision that, okay, I guess it's time for me to move on. And if you want to come along with me, fine. And I actually did that. I actually moved along, and that's why we haven't really focused on fitness here for about the past 7 or 8 months. We've been focused mostly on personal development and business growth, because I got tired of it. I said, I'm going to move on. I'm going to give some time for people to get to know me as a different guy.
Okay.
So I literally walked away from that part of that business, although it's still a huge part. Because what we teach really works, but we had to come at it from an angle. Almost like, see, when you start as a fat guy, and you go through all the struggles and people hear all that stuff, and then they connect to that. And can I get really honest now?
Please.
It's a support group, man. People are fat for a reason. People are broke for a reason. People are unhappy for a reason. And you ever notice how anybody who has a big problem going on in their life, they commiserate with other people all the time. They want to get and talk and gossip because it feels like you're doing something, but you're not. What you're doing is being made to feel good about it. Well, successful people say, I'm out of here. I ain't listening to that. I'm taking care of it. I'm going to go do something. And so I kind of moved on a little bit because it became support groupy. And I said, I don't want to do that.
Which is actually enabling in a sense.
Yeah, it is. So
you have to enable.
You've got to break free and go into empowerment mode of yourself and everybody else around you. And otherwise, like I say, you become like your 5 closest friends. A quick story, I'll share it with you, I'll be very nice about this. I recently went to a reunion. Haven't seen these people in 32 years. And I walked in the door. I think I've seen one of them over the years. Everybody else I've not seen. There were 20 of them there. My wife and I showed up. I think there were 4 of us. I'll give us 4 that were not obese. And when I say not obese, I mean, I'm talking 300 plus pounds is what I'm talking about. And then there were 4 of us that weren't. That was it. And I went in there and I could not relate. And it wasn't because they were overweight. It wasn't that. It was I looked at lifestyle. My brain went, I can't hang out with these people. They're eating chicken wings. They're eating drink. I can't do that.
They're making very different choices.
They are. But my lesson is this, is that this is a group of people that I had separated from 32 years ago. They're still friends. I still interact with them. I know them on Facebook, the whole deal. But do you think I'm going to reel them in tight? No. And the reason is because on all the levels that are important to me, they're fantastic people. But I will not get dragged into that. So I make these choices. I go out to places where I'm hanging out with people that are like-minded like me right now. And I'll tell you what, if people would do more of that, choose your friends carefully, hang out with people who are more successful than you and who can teach you, you can take yourself to amazing levels. Hang out with people who are happy where they are, and guess what? You're not going to be happy where you are.
I think this is an extremely important lesson in life, because if you, and I've seen this from a professional sports background, I've seen it from an academic background, I've seen it from a business and a mentor background, you will resonate with the people that you surround yourself with.
You do.
Period.
Yeah, I don't resonate with everybody, but man, those I do resonate with keep me really busy. I'm busy all day. Do we have to be friends with everybody? I am friends with everybody. I love everybody. And there's nobody I don't like. And, well, okay, there's 2. But, I was going to say 1, but I think there's probably 2. Yeah, so we can do that. But again, you have to be a bit focused on where you want to go and understand that this is society and everybody's caught up in their own little drama. I'm always humbled by what people are going through. It's amazing. I meet somebody, I never, ever, I used to think I knew everything at one time. And I used to think, man, they're just like me. But not like me totally, because I've got a better, more dramatic story. And this is way before I started this business. These days, I'll stand in front of you and I'm just waiting to figure it out, because I know there's something exciting that's going to put me in the corner and put me in my place. And I'm going to go, where did that come from? From everybody I meet. It happens all the time.
I like
life
that.
Is interesting, man.
I love the excitement of life. So
yeah, depending on the day. No,
and sometimes it comes
I get excited about it. Yeah,
a seatbelt.
yeah, new seatbelt and an airbag.
So how did you overcome your own challenges, or where did that self-confidence come from that you, unlike so many others, could just flip the switch?
I don't flip the switch. I don't do that. I drive my wife crazy, but this is kind of a good example of what happens.
Okay.
A thought pops into my head, and I go, "Oh, I might like to do that." And it pops into my head, and I immediately say, "I understand something." And this is something I've always understood, that anything I want to do is possible. Now, sometimes I get into it a little bit and I go, "Oh man, I can't play NBA basketball after all." And as I've gotten older, that list has gotten longer of things I can't do.
Yeah.
But I've always just believed that anything was possible if I wanted bad enough and was willing to do what it took to get there. And that's not saying it's bad. It's just saying that sometimes, you can't have it all. Sometimes you can have it all, and just not all at one time. So you've got to make a decision to go there. So I learned to kind of do that. But here's what I do now. I'll come up with an idea. Like right now, my latest idea is, I told you I'm getting a dog. I mentioned that. That was an idea that popped into my head. That's a big deal. I haven't had dogs for a long time. But now I went horseback riding up in the North Carolina mountains. And somebody took the time to really teach me how to ride a horse, how to control the horse.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of infatuated by horses for a while. And so I paid attention. As I get up on this beautiful horse, like 17, 18 hands high. And gosh darn, if I couldn't ride that horse up through the hills, and he did everything I asked him to do.
Wow.
He liked me. I controlled him. He never got out. And I'm like, holy moly, look at me. I'm driving a horse. And next thing that happens, I'm looking at horseback riding lessons. Then I'm looking at buying a horse. Then I'm looking at leasing a horse. And my wife, she used to ride horses. She's like, she's okay with this idea, by the way, because she used to do it. But that's what happens. So an idea pops into my head, and then I follow the breadcrumb. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It means I follow the breadcrumb. And if I'm still excited, if it still drives me in that direction, then I'm going to go that way. And if not, and this is what a lot of people do. This is a great lesson for a lot of folks. When the idea pops into your head, you have a couple of choices. You can go ahead and do it.
Yep.
You can go ahead and just not do it. Or you can let it fester for 25 years and drive yourself crazy and be mad that you never lived the life you wanted to, which is where a phenomenal number of people are right now. They're still thinking, but I always wanted to, blah, 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 blah. Listen, when I was 18 years old, there were things I thought I wanted to do, and I had never done them. Do you think now there are not a few things on that list at 18 that I'm thinking, I'm glad I didn't do? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. What was I thinking? I was 18. So when a thought pops in your head, you either just kind of begin to go after it little by little, not all in, just check it out. Get rid of it, or, talk to somebody, whatever.
Is your passion your compass? If it's fun, do it. Relatively speaking.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think my interest is my compass. I think what gets my attention is my compass.
Yes.
And you have to pay attention to that, because there are things that get my attention that like yesterday, I was sleeping on the couch half the afternoon. I was tired. Got to tell you, I planned on doing that. I had in my idea what television shows I was going to let stream on Netflix, one right after another, while I slept. Crazy idea, I know. Certain shows keep you asleep. I'm just saying. So, yeah, my passion. See, passion is crazy. Passion to get you in trouble. Everybody's out there running around chasing their passion. My passion is what I do every single day. My passion is being alive. My passion is following my interests. So once I get my interest in something, I go, wow, this is kind of cool. I think I'll go after it. I think I'll see what I can do with this. Can it turn into a job? Maybe it doesn't have to. But I start exploring. I call it exploring the possibilities.
So
and decide.
If somebody's stuck out there, for instance, and they're going, I'm not sure where to go, where to turn, would one of your first steps be then figure out what you're interested in?
Yeah. Turn to something. Do something. Try something. Try something on. You don't have to keep it. Try something. Whatever it happens to be. So usually we can narrow it down. Like, for instance, let me go to you. Give me an example of where somebody is stuck.
I'll give you an example of somebody is stuck.
Yeah, what might they be stuck on? What do you mean by that? You brought it up, not me.
Well, somebody who doesn't know what he or she likes to do. Just feels like they're going by. Each day is the same. Each day is doing something that does not serve their higher purpose.
Okay, what's your higher purpose?
Oh, for myself.
What does that mean? Higher purpose.
For myself, I think so far it's to share.
Okay.
It's to share what I'm learning along my path.
Okay. which was kind of my purpose as well. And you began to follow that, right?
Yes.
Simple little move. That's all. And so if somebody's stuck, one of the first things I say, this kind of goes back to, let's go back to the diet thing.
Yes.
Lots of, I don't know. I don't know what to eat. Sure you do. You learn it in kindergarten. You really, really do. I mean, all of us, anybody born in this country or any first world nation pretty much knows what to eat, right? We kind of know the rules. It's got a little bit more confusing these days. Marketing has messed it all up. But the bottom line is this, pretty much we know what's going on. But let's just assume that you don't. Let me ask you a question. Do you know what food is bad for you?
I think so.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it. Everybody knows it's bad for them. Oh, yeah. It's so easy to know it. So here's what I tell people. So instead of worrying about going to the grocery store and finding new stuff that's good for you, because that's way too confusing, why don't we just stop the bad? What's bad? Well, I ate chicken wings for lunch every day. Okay. What might be a better choice? Well, I hear some people eat salads. Yeah, order a salad. And we leave it at that. We call it being more gooder than badder. But the reality is remove the bad.
Which is one of your shows.
It is one of our shows. It's one of my many shows. But the truth is about this. So when it comes to making change, you have to understand that you're in a habitual pattern moving in a certain direction.
Yes.
This is just a series of electrons firing in your brain that have done it in a certain order for so long. You're just going. You need to break the pattern. And sometimes breaking the pattern is recognizing the pattern. Sometimes it's that simple. Oh, can't do that anymore. Guess I better try something else. And people do. Sometimes people want a drinking binge for a month and one day say, I can't do that. It's going to kill me. And they stop. Then they're sitting and they float around a little bit. Well, now what am I going to do? Can't go drink anymore. So they got to find out something else. So it moves them into it. So it's recognition of the pattern. But one of the simple ways, I'm crossing all over the place here because you've set up a monster. You've got me going. So there's two ways to do this. First off, if you don't know what the right thing is to do, if you remove the wrong, you'd be surprised how much time you have in your life.
Oh, great point.
Okay, you really will. I mean, the reality is if you're going crazy, like we unplugged our cable TV and we got Netflix. Because I got in the habit of every night watching 4 hours of TV just because it was there. Now I don't. I choose what I watch.
Yeah.
So what I did was I unplugged one before I ever plugged the other one in. I filled the hole with something else. Now that will always happen with diets or with any time you break a habit. So you do want to kind of remove it and give yourself some thinking time. Sometimes you don't want to fill the hole right away. You just want to allow the space. If you have something, so this is maybe when somebody's stuck. You can't quit your job today, right? But what might we do if we're stuck on a job? Okay, ask a simple question. I know you don't know what you do in the job you're working right now, but if you could do something, what would it be? And you'd be surprised. Almost everybody will give you an answer. Well, I've always wanted to. Okay, how do we start?
There's a clue.
There's a clue. And the clue's all you need. It's a breadcrumb. You just got to follow it.
I like one of your shows recently. You talk about it's something that's really come up in our life over and over and over again because we're recovering. Well, you could say we're perfectionists in remission.
I never had that problem.
And we put out a beautiful mindful running program. It took us a year and a half to make 100+ videos. Beautiful thing. Way more than way more value than what we charged for. But it was never supposed to take a year or year and a half of our lives. We were insane. No. We should have been locked up. And one, just to stop us from the madness. And we can still sense that tendency of, well, I want to do this first. I want to get that done first. And one of the topics you've had on recently, and I believe it's a recurring theme, is fail freaking fast.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can expand upon that, because that's to me, that is extremely powerful for success.
Well, you're not going to succeed without failing. And most people are afraid to fail. So I just understand I'm going to fail. And so if I'm going to fail, let's get it over with. Let's pull that Band-Aid off fast. Let's go. Let's jump in and do it. So, I tend to be messy. We're doing an event this Wednesday. It's kind of interesting. And I didn't want to do it. I kind of got talked into doing it. And for a guy that's coming to town, he wanted me to put the event on for him. And I'll make some money probably. But I wasn't into it. It's like summertime. I don't want to do an event. Okay, let's get it over with. 45 minutes later, I basically had put the promotion out for it. And I started booking people right away. A week later, I've filled up my 100-person room. I'm like, okay, now what? I guess I gotta. Oh, man. All right. Well, let me go in and just do a wait list and see if I. So I get a wait list and I went and I expanded the room to 150.
Yeah.
Well, I got a few more seats to fill. So what I did was I just, okay, let me just throw up I could get fancy with all my landing pages and all my advertisements. I'm just going to go run some ads on Facebook. I'm going to dial it in right to the area. I'm just going to throw a page up I've had before, and I'm going to ship them right to Eventbrite and see what happens. Boom. We'll be sold out by midnight tonight.
Beautiful.
It's the messiest promotion you've ever seen in your life. But that's the point. It doesn't matter. Yeah. See, we just throw it on the wall, see what sticks, and keep on going. Now, so he's going to walk in there with 150 people in this room. Mm-hmm. And I know he's only had 40 or 50 with every event he's done so far. And so I'm going to bring all these people to him. And honest to God, I don't have more than 3 hours into this thing. It is the messiest. There's typos on my emails. Do I care? Well, I should kind of do. But the bottom line is I put 150 people in the room. Mm-hmm. So I don't worry about that. So fail fast, fail fast, fail fast. When I work out, when I do anything, when you got on the phone with me today or on Skype that we're on right now, I literally went out Friday. I bought a sound system on Friday. I went Saturday, bought a brand new mixer for my studio. I spent 6 hours rewiring it because it's kind of a zen place for me to rewire my studio. There's no thinking. I just put it together like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. So then I'm not thinking about it. 30 minutes before you get on with me, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is going to work. So the first question I asked for you was, can you hear me? We had about 5 minutes to go. It would have worked out somehow. Otherwise, I would have pulled it and done something simpler. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Still doesn't matter. So yeah, whatever you want to do, get over the fear of it. You're going to fail anyway. If you were told you were going to fail 1,000 times before you succeeded, 1,000 times, would you ever start? No. But the truth is, you're going to fail 1,000 times before you succeed.
So you might as well get to the 1,000 as quickly as you can.
As fast as you can, man, and group them together if you can and fail 10 times at once and whatever you can do to make it happen. You got to do that because otherwise you'll never get there. See, life is short, man. Everything takes time. There's a gestation period with everything. Mm-hmm. No matter what you try to do, when you come up with an idea to get to formulate that idea, to meet the right people, to save up the money, to take the steps, whatever you have to do to get there takes time. And so that's going to take time anyway. If you have anything in your way that you're going to stumble over, it's going to take twice as long. You'll never get there. Have you read Essentialism or The One Thing?
No, I haven't.
Go read them. You need to read them.
I will.
And you'll figure out really fast that the quicker you focus in on one thing, the faster you can dial through those failures and get there.
I call it SMP, single-minded purpose. So when you find your SMP, to me means you're focused on one thing, but you're dabbling over here, you're dabbling over there, you're spreading your efforts thin, and then you just have to keep on reminding yourself, SMP, bring it back to its essence, to that most important, I guess what you're saying, essential.
So what would you say? Let me ask you a question. What would you say my essence is? My SMP. What is that? What is it? What do you think it is every single day? That in terms of my life and what I do, and let's focus on my business, so you at least have some place to guess, okay?
Okay.
So what I do for a living, what do you think my single-minded purpose is every single day?
Well, I think it's also to share, and it's to share life lessons that you've gained, so that other people can. It's planting seeds.
Hey, Johnny, you want to try again? Go ahead.
No.
No, I'll help you out because you're right with that answer. You are. I certainly want to do that. But remember, I don't believe I can really help anybody.
Okay, so if we get to the heart of it, your single-minded purpose is let's keep the roof over your head. Let's take care of your family.
Well, I guess so. But no, not really. To me, that's a byproduct.
All right.
Yeah, because if I do something right, I'm going to have that taken care of, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you having fun right now?
Is that a purpose? Oh, no, I don't care about that. Sometimes life is not fun. Can I help you out yet? You want to try again?
I think okay, let me get a lifeline or whatever that's called.
Okay. All right, let me give it to you.
Yeah, please.
This has been going ever since I started this program. Mm-hmm. The heart of what I do in my entire business, whether I'm speaking, coaching, consulting, all that stuff.
Yes.
The heart of it comes down to my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Comes down to it. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, that's kind of where I express myself. Mm-hmm. It's kind of where I get all my clients, by the way. It's really how I create all my content. Everything that I need comes off the podcast.
Makes sense.
It is the base. And if you listen to what I do, and you listen to my voice, and you listen to how I think, you begin to understand that this is one of my core talents is to do this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best things I do. So from the day I started my program, I said, nobody messes with my podcast. And I've had a lot of people try to mess with it over the years.
What does that mean?
That means that nobody takes it away, that nobody stops it, no competitor comes in and beats me, nothing ever happens. I will do what it takes to stay where I am. And because I understood that as long as I keep my eye on that prize,
Yes.
that everything goes. And that's why when we went, we used to be a paid podcast, and we went from 100,000 downloads a month in December of 2014, 3 months later, to a 1.1 million per month. Because I looked at the marketplace and I said, okay, my old model has worked for a long time. It still was working. I could buy a house with what I gave up. Still was working very well. But I looked at it and I said, nope, if I don't do this, somebody's going to take my podcast from me. I'm going to get knocked down to 40 or 50 on the charts and not be top 5.
Yeah.
So I followed my single-minded purpose.
Woohoo!
Nobody takes my podcast from me.
Yeah.
And I acted according to that. Now, that meant a lot of change in my life. And we're down about 19% in revenue this year, so which is not a bad thing given what I've been through. And I'll get that money back eventually. It's not all about that. It's about being able to do the things that I feel I need to be doing. So my single-minded purpose is that. And when it changes someday, and it will, it's like I'll adjust it. My number one value in life. Do you have values in life? What would you say your number one value is?
Relationship, wife.
Oh, okay. There you go. Right on top, huh? What if she leaves you?
I'll be all right.
Oh, okay. Then what's your number one value?
Geez,
Still relationship, wife?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, if we talk about at its core, at its essence, at its most, I don't know if we'd call it an SMP. I'm glad you flipped the tables on me on this one. This is fun. To me, based on everything I've been through, it's spirituality. It's my meditation. It's my practice. It's my connection.
Yep.
Connection to something greater than myself.
Yeah, you find yourself back there. So that's really what's important to you. And that's important to you. That's probably the most important thing to you now.
Yes.
And you achieve that with relationship.
Yes.
It's part of how you do that. So that's why my wife is not number one in my life, and she knows that. It's fine. I've had all kinds of number one. I used to be, my wife first, family second, money third. I used to have all that stuff. Got rid of it all. Now my number one value is one that a lot of people don't even get. I always try to do the right thing. If I mess up, and I will,
yes,
I'll say I'm sorry. I'll fix it, and I'll try again until I get it right. Now, I can pretty much think that through in a millisecond. It took me a long time to get to that, because what I realized is that's what I was trying to do anyway. And that day to day, I was trying to make my life better. And if I always try to do the right thing for my wife, or my kids, or my house, or my mortgage, or whatever, and I mess up, I can come back. So I said, I just got one value. It covers everything else. And that keeps me focused on that, trying to do the right thing, which is difficult sometimes, because sometimes the right thing for me or my family or in the greater good of my small little ecosystem where I live doesn't sound like the right thing to somebody I'm saying something to. But it is for me.
There's your compass.
Now life gets complicated, doesn't it?
But you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah, I think ultimately we are. I mean, listen, if you walk it, you don't have to be, would be. I think a lot of people aren't. I think I have times of not being. But I think ultimately, if you watch people, it's like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, you've got to have those needs taken care of. You got to feel secure. You got to be fed. Things have to be taken care of. And you'll watch when societies break down, when people no longer have their needs taken care of, they only have one thing in mind. And they will do anything to get what they need to take care of themselves. There's
a show I didn't get to listen to yet. But the title really grabbed me. Declare Your Interdependence.
Oh, yeah. Love that one.
Does that have to do with this theme?
Yeah, I guess it does. I've been talking about that for a long time. The interdependence, many times that'll come out around Independence Day. I think about it. And all it means is this. I think we have three choices. I think we can be dependent on other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to be. There are people in society that are dependent. That's fine. Yeah, and there are people that should be dependent. The elderly. The people that are physically challenged, mentally challenged. Those folks are dependent on us, and we need to take care of them. We have independent people, and gosh knows we need them too. But to be independent and not think about other people is a bad thing. We find them all over the place. You run into independent people constantly. He's so independent. You hate them when they're that way. So I'm an independent guy. I'm a dependent guy. So I call myself interdependent. It's like my wife. My wife is extremely dependent or independent, and I've had conversations with her before. And I had to define it in her mind, because she was also very interdependent with me. But I had to define it with her so she understood that she was being that way. In other words, it's okay to let me pick up some of the slack here and let me do my job too, because I want to. And you can pick up some of mine. So I think we roll through life to be dependent. We be dependent when we need to be. When you're sick and you need some help, you're dependent on your wife. Yeah. And she's dependent on you. And sometimes when I go out riding my motorcycle, which I sold, but I'm thinking about getting another one.
Me as well.
I'm an independent beast, man. That's what I am.
What did you sell?
Huh?
What did you sell?
I sold a 2012 Harley Davidson Ultra Classic Limited. Electric Glide Limited, I guess they call it. Beautiful. It was too big for me. You know what? It was. I loved the bike. It was great fun. But I was looking at it more than I was riding it. And what I realized was some of the fun of motorcycle riding went away with that large motorcycle.
See, this is actually so important that you had the awareness to look at the motorcycle and realize what was going on, because that seems to be a missing element today. Is a lot of people will stick with the motorcycle because it's the motorcycle. Yeah. Instead of realizing what's important to them. Yeah.
Just awareness is key to everything, and it's hard to do. And really, it's just a matter of bringing yourself to a point of awareness and deciding. My worldview, what I'm aware and how I process things, is the most important thing in the world, and mine is different than yours, very different. And I'm going to look at everything that crosses my path very differently than you do. But the person who's most aware, who on that wonderful scale of enlightenment has climbed up a little bit, is going to be the most happy. Because now you can make those choices. And, did I want to sell my bike? No, I was a screaming baby. I don't want to sell my motorcycle. But and nobody told me to. I told me to. I need to do something with this thing. And once I stopped and thought about it, I went, yeah, you know what? It doesn't fit me right now. And so, I let it go. And you know what was very cool about it, that I really enjoyed this is that I have this philosophy that there is a guy out there looking for this bike. Yeah. And there was only one. I didn't need 1,000. I just needed one. And I wrote a very cool story, and this guy came from Texas, and he flew in to get it, and he came over here, and I polished that bike beyond belief, and he was going to ride it back in the rain, so I knew my work. I spent 8 hours detailing that bike. I packaged things up. I trained him on the bike. I gave him such an amazing experience when he bought this motorcycle. He sent me 3 thank you notes about making it such an amazing experience. So see, to me, it was about becoming aware of the love of that bike, and that I still had the love of riding, and yet now I wanted to pass it on to this guy and really make it good for him. I had more fun selling the bike than I did riding it the past year. So now I'm looking. I just told my wife yesterday, I almost swung by the Harley dealership, but I got distracted by the motorhome dealership, so I didn't. So why not?
So, and we're looking at moving on our end of things, and I'm like, wow, where I believe we're going, we can get another bike.
There you go. Yeah, I'll get another one. It'll be, we live in Florida, so it'll be a little bit of time before I do that. But you've got to, in my view, if you sit down and you really think about the things you enjoy. Yes. And what you need. I learned something, by the way, a long time ago. I learned about spending money on stuff. I learned that I don't have to spend a lot to be happy. And so sometimes I'll be in this mood to buy some electronic. So I go to Best Buy and spend less than $20 on something, and I'm as happy as I spent $5,000. I learned that a long time ago. Then I learned another lesson. This is right after I figure out that friends are liabilities, and you either accept the liability or you don't. Because when you take a friend on, you take a relationship on, you are now taking on some of the liability of that relationship. Okay. So you either accept it or you don't. And I figured that out, and then I figured out one day a long time ago that every single thing I bring into my house or my life requires maintenance on it.
Absolutely. There's an energy to it. There's a weight behind it.
There's a weight behind it, and you got to keep up with it. So I began to realize that, okay, if I bring something into my life, then I may as well accept that it's going to add energy and add weight and add work to my day. Yes. Years ago, I used to try to get my wife to go out of town on the weekend, and she wouldn't go. And I said, why? And she goes, because I have to clean the house. It's so dirty. I said, the dirt will be here Monday. It'll probably be multiplied by Monday. You'll have more to clean when you get back on Monday. And all I had to say was that I could never get her to clean the house again. It was done. Wow. So, but it's a whole thing. And I think that's what mostly life is all about. And that's what kind of my show's about, is trying to look at these things that are conflicting, that really are just drama in our life, and trying to figure out what's really going on in our mind, raise our awareness level, and then get strategic and tactical points that we can use to get where we want to go. kind of what I am.
I like it.
Well, good. I'm glad.
So a few questions before we wrap things up. Jessica's always the ear in my head. She's the producer. And she's always asking me to ask a question about kids, raising kids, infants. You can tell a little bit of where her mind is thinking right now.
Yeah.
And so you're a few years past newborn, certainly.
I'm a few years past newborn grandchildren now.
Wow. But you've been down this road once, twice, plus. We'll say you're into the bonus rounds.
I am.
So a piece of advice from the bonus round.
From the bonus round. Yeah, I started young, by the way. But I'm 55 now. So I had kids at 20.
Wow.
I was an empty nester at 41. So, and they're good kids. So I had that, and then my wife died, and then I met Joy, and Joy came in with two others that were about 7 years younger, and I looked up in one day, and I said, who are these people? It looks the same, it feels the same, they're different people, but I've been through this before.
Yes.
And now I have a 2-year-old grandson, and he's cool.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. A 2-year-old, and I have a 4-month-old Vivian, and we just heard the other day we have another one on the way, so it's been kind of fun. Woo-hoo. So here's the advice.
Yeah.
Kids don't know. Kids don't know. They don't know nothing. When they're born, they have certain things in them. They're good at certain traits that are born into their DNA, and you're going to see those come out over time. At the end of the day, they don't know. They have no expectations. They just don't know. So you set the expectation to your children of you're a good, polite person, you're a spiritual person, you clean your room person, you set the expectation of what your child's going to be. And you said it very early on, you said it very consistently. And I'm going to relate it to training a dog or a cat.
Okay.
You set the expectation, and it's not at that level, but really when the kids are young and growing, you're teaching them what's right and wrong. And they don't understand your words, they don't understand your drama, they don't understand all the stuff you've been through, nor will they ever until they're like 30 or 40 years old and go, oh, now I get it. So just whatever child you have, and you will, just understand that they just don't know, and they can only react to the expectation that you set. And that's it. And if they're doing something other than that, it hasn't been set right. So pay attention to what you set.
I like that.
Work for me.
What would 3 then, switching gears, going back to you, going back to our audience again, what are 3 key takeaway pieces of advice that you would give people? Maybe there are 3 things that you repeat over and over in the show, hoping.
No, all right. I'm going to go random on you here.
Please.
I always say life begins when you move. And when I mean that, I mean spiritually, I mean emotionally, I mean intellectually, and I mean physically. Easiest one to move is physically, by the way.
Which is what we've got coming up.
Yeah. Well, even just to exercise or take a walk. When you change your environment, stepping outside changes everything. And the great piece of advice for you as part of my 3 here is that if you're sitting inside and you're not able to, kind of work your way out of funk, go outside. Go do something. Change your environment. When you change your environment, everything changes. You open up because your body's your mind's processing differently. So you change. But life begins when you move. A lot of people try to intellectually think their way into or out of something. You can't do that. But if you stand up and you physically get your body engaged, you change, and everything else becomes different after that. You will drive your emotions through your physicality. Well, that's the first thing.
And we're wired for that.
We are wired. Yeah. Well, so I forgot about that. I've been doing this a long time. Yeah, just move. The other thing is, I think that take the blinders off. I spend, because I run a business, I spend a lot of time marketing my business, and I've become a bit of an expert doing that. One thing that really used to make me mad was that all marketers are really good liars, and if you let a marketer go, he'll ruin everything. So what does that mean? Well, that means that most of the things you're hearing out and around you are probably not exactly the truth, and they've probably been accelerated to what we call the Schwartz levels of sophistication, so beyond what they used to be that you can't believe them. And so your friends are nothing but marketing machines of themselves. Your boss is marketing himself. Anybody you walk down a sidewalk, that person is emanating some kind of marketing aura because they're presenting who they are to you. And so you have to walk out the door not dissing any of that stuff, but you got to walk out the door being aware that you're being saturated by these messages constantly, and that's getting in the way of how you're thinking. So if you don't be clear on what you're doing, and you just allow the messages to come in, which is what most people do, you're going to be confused and you're never going to get what you want.
So you're saying, in a sense, know thyself. Know thyself so that you're not listening to all the background noise.
Well, know thyself and know the background noise is there.
Okay.
Yeah, don't just block it out. Know it's there. Because, it's like people say, well, don't watch the news. I watch the news and I'm fine. It's okay. Because I'm not watching it going, oh my God, look what happened. I'm watching it from a pure, open perspective. So I know what I'm getting into when I'm watching it. And so that's what I mean. So be aware of yourself, know thyself, plus know that the world is just busy. And the one thing I'll put in here that I say often, and I do this a lot, I learned this lesson whenever I was climbing mountains, and I don't climb big mountains. Don't crazy. I mean, I'll go out to Colorado and I'll take a trail. I don't climb mountains. I'll go hiking, right? That kind of thing. Well, it sounded pretty good when I said
you'll hike a 14er, though.
I have.
That counts.
I have done that. So I've done that. So yeah, so I will do that. And then I fly airplanes as well. And I'm getting ready to switch from my private pilot. I'm an instrument-rated private pilot, getting ready to switch over to gliders because they look fun. I thought, what's the one thing that scares a standard pilot?
Oh, I can tell you that because our best man at our wedding, 89 years young at our wedding, he was a Navy pilot during World War II. And when he got into his 80s, he went to fly gliders. And he was an amazing pilot with an engine. Yeah. To not have that engine scared the ever-loving daylights out of him.
Good answer. Every pilot, and you're taught to panic when the engine goes out, and here's your emergency procedures. Do the bold items first. Then go to your book and read the rest of them. Well, glider pilots don't have an engine to begin with. And so part of my challenge is that, so what did I do? I jumped on YouTube. I started watching glider videos. I said, holy moly, this really works. Then I went and talked to a few pilots, and I said, how's it actually work? And they told me about it. I said, well, you don't need an engine in those airplanes. Cool. So, we learn about out of comfort zone and things like that. But one thing that I've learned in doing this is in flying or in hiking in high altitudes is that in this world filled with vibration, and everything's vibration, right? And we can vibrate in at every single different level possible. We've got, at a higher level in many cases, you have frequencies that are emanating from radio towers all around you. You literally you're being bombarded every single day by vibrations of some form, some very natural, some are manufactured. And yet, so many of the vibrations are right down here in just lower level. If you even get up at the top of a high rise and look down on the city, doesn't it feel different looking down on the city versus being in the city?
Oh, yeah.
How vibration has changed. If you get up on a mountaintop, it changes even further. If you fly at 10,000 feet or 20 or 30 or 40,000 and look down, it's a different world. Calm and cool and peaceful. So I call it rising above the interference. I actually have a tattoo on my back that's got a mountaintop and a compass heading and some wings, and it basically simulates me flying above the interference of the mountaintop. Looks a lot like Everest. And so whenever I'm feeling stressed, and whenever I'm talking to anybody who's feeling stressed, I said, you got to rise above the interference, either physically or intellectually. You got to get above it, because the interference is what is going to bring you down. It's going to wear you out. It's going to stress you out. It's really going to put you at the bottom. And one of my favorite sayings is this: if you are seeking change in your life, you need to explore the possibility and go at it, because eventually you're going to change. You will change either when you decide to or when you wear yourself out and you won't take it anymore. Which one's it going to be? Because you're going to do it anyway. My coaching clients, I always tell them that. I say, guys, here, listen, you got a choice. You can pay me a whole bunch of money every single month. For how long do you want to pay it? And eventually you're going to run out of money, or you're going to change. Why don't you just change now? And you can go ahead and fire me. and it's happened. By the way, they have. You're right, Scott. I'm done. But I'm telling you, if you want something else in your life, you're either going to make the change today, or at least begin to move toward that change. Or you're going to fret on it until you get so frustrated by it, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. And then suddenly you'll change and you'll wonder why you took so long. Those are 3 things. But that's actually like 25 things.
I lost count somewhere in there, but in our own world, so bringing it back to Michael, I heard some powerful words, because we've been deciding, do we move now? Do we move a little bit further on down the show? When is it we move? And the words rise above the interference, I think, are incredibly important. Now, we're meditators. We in our own way, rise above that interference. But our environment, in this case, is an interference that I'm hearing it's time to move on.
Yeah, as I was saying that, I was thinking, I mean, that's had we been working together, that's what I would have said to you. I would have said that to you, because I think you'll see, I'm a real spiritual guy, and yet I communicate on kind of a different level. I kind of tend to be the guy that's going to, I'm not going to be the general back at command post telling you what to do. I'm going to be the guy out riding the truck saying, "Get over there!" Because that's and when I want to know what's going on, I'm going to climb up the mountain and look down. But I tend to be the guy that just kind of gets down in real life and likes to get messy and dirty and figure it out, because I think that's where the fun is. But yeah, that's what I would say with you. I would say that based on what I've heard is that, you'll change when you wear yourself out. You may as well go ahead and get it done.
Amen.
Rise above it and go, man.
Well, thank you for being the sage today. So I've got just one last question remaining.
Oh, wow.
So unless you have key words of wisdom you want to share with people.
I think we've gone on a long time here. Right. Yeah, this is, you just let me go I can't wait to hear what you've done, because I have no idea what I did. We'll see.
This is a question we ask all of our guests. Okay. Which is, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
That's a good question, man. I like to scream and yell a lot. I do. I'm kind of a sappy guy, and I get the biggest woohoo factor from being sappy. And what I mean by that is, I was playing with my grandson yesterday, and I was absolutely infatuated by this kid. And just being this goofy fun little kid, and I was just making fun noises because of that. But I'll get the same thing watching a movie or listening to a song that means a lot to me. I'll get the same thing by seeing some people connect. I'm that kind of person. I connect like that, and it really was very odd for me, because I'm a bit of an artist who tends to look on the outside. I'm on the outside looking in. I don't necessarily have to be a part of the party, but I love to observe a good party. That's what makes me happy. And so when I see emotional connections happening, when I see people, listen, I cry during every movie I've ever seen, as long as there's an emotional moment, and there usually is. That's what just puts me in my happy spot. And surprisingly, I mean, as a former shock jock, I thought it would be something bigger than that, but it's not. It's just the very basics of, wow, how cool was that? That's it. So maybe it's my how cool was that moment that just makes me go, woohoo!
Yeah.
Surprisingly, again, I'm really surprised by that. I would have absolutely assured you not so long ago that I would have to have something that, based on the accomplishments on my bucket list, I would have to have something have me screaming and yelling to make me happy. But out of all the things I've done, I'm trying to refill my bucket list right now, because I've pretty much done everything. All right, I got a check mark. Cool. That's about it. So it's that moment, that how cool is it moments that just kind of make me go woo. One of my favorite sayings is my grandson goes whoa all the time, and it cracks me up. So one of my driving essence statements for me all the time is whoa, cracks me up. People say, why are you doing it? I say whoa, just cracks me up. And I just run with that all the time. And again, surprisingly, I found this very, very cool, emotional, fun little place that just does it for me.
I love it. Perfect words to end with, I think.
Great.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, say whoa.
Cracks me up.
And shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you, Scott.
You're very welcome.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel, where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much, and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!